Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our showing of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981, the first selection in our current miniseries, Hollywood's Greatest Heroes, directed by Steven Spielberg, with Harrison Ford, our first hero, Indiana Jones, and Karen Allen. Lawrence Kasdan adopted the screenplay from a story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman, and the iconic score was composed by John Williams. Spielberg grew up on Saturday morning low-budget serials and always wanted to make a film based on them and on the James Bond movies popular in the 60s and 70s. His last 3 films came in over budget and behind schedule, so he needed to make Raiders to convince producers that he could make a picture responsibly. Many rejected it because of its proposed $20 million budget, and because Lucas wanted the studios to finance them without creative input and allow them to control the licensing rights and any sequels. Lucas also refused to do the picture without Spielberg, but Paramount's Michael Eisner finally struck a deal with them, giving his studio exclusive rights to sequels and allowing him to exact severe penalties if Spielberg exceeded schedule or budget. Reviews were positive. Vincent Canby of the New York Times said Raiders was an instant classic, one of the most humorous and stylish American films ever made. Many major critics praised both Ford's and Allen's performances and the special effects, but said that Raiders' PG rating was too lenient for such a scary film, and that there should be another rating between PG and R. This led to the PG-13 rating used today. Raiders received 4 Oscars, including Best Visual Effects, Best Production Design, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Film Editing. It referenced many films, i.e. the early serials, Citizen Kane, 1941, Kiss Me Deadly, 1955, and Lawrence of Arabia, 1962. In the last scene, the Ark is secured in a warehouse, a direct reference to Rosebud, Citizen Kane's beloved childhood sled. There are many references to Lucas's films. For example, the characters of R2-D2 and C-3PO appear as hieroglyphics inside the Well of Souls. Actors Clint Eastwood and Toshiro Mifune and the James Bond character were models for the Indiana Jones character. Raiders cleaned up financially, earning nearly $390 million at the box office, and played in some theaters for over a year. It is now considered one of the greatest films ever made and inspired many other filmmakers. Lucas's company, Industrial Light and Magic, handled the special effects for Raiders. The Ark's spirits were created by hanging small robed puppets in a cloudy water tank in front of a film screen and shaking them to create a natural movement that was worked into the final footage. The melting face was sculpted using different colored layers of gelatin placed over a carved, heat-resistant stone skull. Propane heaters were used to melt the gelatin. Billy's death was considered so extreme that the Motion Picture Association of America gave the film an R rating, restricting it to viewers over the age of 17. The crew placed flame images over this scene to conceal the effect and get the rating reversed. In order to get the monkey to flash a plausible Nazi salute at the end of the film, his trainer hung a grape over his head to encourage him to reach up. Indy's leather jacket and khaki pants are based on Humphrey Bogart's outfit in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Ford tried on many hats until they found the right one. It was then aged with Fuller's Earth and mineral oil. This produced a recognizable image of Indy, even in silhouette. The sound of slithering snakes is a mix of the sound effects supervisor's running his hands through a cheese casserole and wet sponges dragged across gripper tape. The rolling boulders sound is that of a Honda Civic driving down a gravel hill, and the Ark spirits are voiced by sea lions and dolphins through a recorder. John Williams felt the music had to be theatrical in style. He spent several weeks working on the Indiana Jones theme, known as the Raiders' March, that plays during the heroic scenes. For the romantic scenes, he was inspired by older films like Now Voyager, 1942, to create something more monumental to contrast with the film's humor and lighter moments. He used darker orchestral pieces to represent the Nazis, signifying a militaristic evil, and a mix of chorus and orchestra to produce a biblical effect for the Ark of the Covenant. Filming took place on set at Elstree Studios in England and on location in France, Tunisia, and Kauai, where the Peruvian jungle scenes were shot. The Peruvian temple interiors were actually shot on life-size sets built at Elstree. The interior of Jones's school was filmed at the Royal Masonic School for Girls in Rickmansworth. Its exterior was filmed at the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California. The Cairo Village was filmed in the town of Kairouan, Tunisia, and they removed over 300 TV antennas to achieve an authentic 1930s look. Spielberg later described filming in Tunisia as one of his worst professional experiences. The temperature was consistently over 130 degrees, and over 150 crew members were sickened by dysentery from the local food. They borrowed a World War II submarine from the war film Das Boot and used the World War II submarine pen at La Rochelle, France, as a U-boat dock. The final exterior scene was shot on the steps of San Francisco's City Hall. Plot summary. In 1936, an archaeology professor named Indiana Jones ventures into the jungles of South America to search for a golden statue. When he learns about a biblical artifact called the Ark of the Covenant, he travels to Egypt and Nepal in search of the treasure, trying to prevent an opposing group of Nazis from acquiring it first. But he must fight other obstacles as well, including his nemesis, archaeologist René Belloc. Which of the two rivals will end up with the Ark? Fun facts about the film. The Great Boulder was 22 feet across, made of wood and plaster, and weighed about 300 pounds. Ford undertook a rigorous exercise regimen for the film and trained with a stunt coordinator to use a bullwhip. Marion Ravenwood's name has two sources. Marion was the name of Kasdan's mother-in-law, and Ravenwood was the name of an LA street. The filming of the Well of Souls scene was delayed because there was not enough anti-venom, and Stanley Kubrick's daughter, who was visiting her father nearby, called the RSPCA to complain about the treatment of the snakes. Nearly 1,000 snakes were used. Many were harmless grass snakes, some were legless lizards, and 15 were non-venomous pythons. Nevertheless, the stage doors were kept open during filming to provide rapid access to a waiting ambulance. In the scene where the tarantulas crawl over Alfred Molina's body, the spiders would not move until the crew placed a female tarantula on his chest to entice them. The shot of Ford clinging to the underside of the truck was suggested by a stuntman. Ford sat in a concealed bike seat attached to the trunk's undercarriage after clinging to his front. Jones's hat, now on display in the Smithsonian Museum, was a Poet model from the Herbert Johnson establishment in London's Savile Row. The registration prefix OB on the float plane is a reference to Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. The words Belloc recites before the opening of the Ark are in Aramaic, recited in many synagogues today before the Ark is opened during the Sabbath service. Salah sings two lines from Gilbert and Sullivan's HMS Pinafore. They are "A British tar is a soaring soul," and "I am the monarch of the sea." Gestapo agent Todt is based on Heinrich Himmler. Note the receding hairline and eyeglasses with circular frames. Ford's boots are Model 405 work boots made by the Alden Shoe Company of Middleborough, Massachusetts, and sold to this day as Indy Boots. Things to look for: the truck chase scene, the Well of Souls scene, the many references to earlier films, the melting face, the tarantulas, the monkey waving a Nazi salute, Indy's iconic leather jacket and khaki pants, the sounds of slithering snakes, a rolling boulder, and sea lions and dolphins, John Williams' brilliant score, including the Raiders' March, the World War II U-boat, the Cairo village filmed in Tunisia, the Ark of the Covenant, Jones' float plane, the Aramaic words spoken by Belloc before the Ark is opened, lines from Pinafore, Ford's Indy Boots, and Tote's resemblance to Himmler. Now it's time to view Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sit back, settle down. Please remember it may take a few minutes for the film to roll. Enjoy.